hear that music? You see this puppy? You know it's time. Another hard-hitting, gap-firing, gal-loving episode of Puppy Noir. The only book chat show on the interweb that features a puppy. And it's not a very pretty puppy anymore either. It's a big, weird-looking, crazy monkey face. But, having said that, having stopped the music, I can say this is also not just the Puppy Noir. This is also the Flash-Bang 200th episode Spectator countdown to that fat bastard leaving the White House. That's a countdown. We're counting down. We're down to day 3. This is day 3. Day 3. We're only have 3 more days of that fat bastard, and he's going to be gone with his whole ugly family. And we're doing a special series to commemorate God. There is obviously, there's maybe not be a God, but there is justice in the universe that the 200th episode landed right on the week that fat bastard was leaving the White House. So we're going to do this. We're doing every day a very short, really short episodes about all our favorite theme songs, all our highly popular hits all over the universe, which is, this one is Puppy Noir. We're going to talk very quickly today. These are all trying to be under 8-9 minutes. Patricia Highsmith, a new biography called Devils, Lusts, and Strange Desires, and that's putting it mildly for Patricia Highsmith. One of the strangest, I have to say, one of the few writers I've ever read about who I didn't want anything to do with her anymore after I read it. I started off thinking, this is really too short for a biography, and I finished it thinking, I'm really glad it wasn't any longer, because she's a really, really unhappy, difficult woman to deal with, and I'm glad I finished reading it. So there's 2 other long biographies of her, which I like better in a way. This one is it's sort of for her 100th birthday, which occurs on the 19th of this month. I think that's her 100th birthday. Okay, talk a bit about Patricia Highsmith. Many of you who think you don't know Patricia Highsmith, again, know her through movies. Her most famous movie, and a movie I do really, really like, is The Talented Mr. Ripley. Matt Damon, Anthony Minghella, isn't that his name? And there's a whole bunch of famous people. Jude Law kind of got famous from that by playing Dickie Greenleaf. A wonderful performance in the movie by a great actor whose name I constantly forget, who died recently. I always love the guy. He plays this really creepy guy. I'll remember before this is over. Anyway, and there's also a French film called Plain Soleil, which is the French version, and both of the books are about Ripley, Talented Mr. Ripley. She's best known for the Ripley books, but a lot of her books were turned into movies. The most famous of her movie adaptations was her first novel, Strangers on a Train. Hitchcock did this. It's still a really good book. Almost every single Highsmith novel has to do with people who think they're normal, middle class, average kind of normal people, good people, who get involved in something that's kind of shady, and the more they get involved in it, the more evil they become. They do evil things when circumstances require them to be done, and they start to get tangled up in things. And even when they try to do good things, they end up doing a lot of horrible things. One of the books I read just this past week, so most famous for Stranger on a Train, the Ripley series. There's 6 Ripley books, I believe. My favorite has always been Ripley's Game. I don't have it here. Ripley's Game was made into a really mediocre movie with a perfectly wrong choice for Ripley. John, what's his face? My brain's going. Lucky, you got to get down. Your part's finished. Anyway, it'll come to me in a minute. And Ripley's Game was not very good as a movie because they picked a guy who's actually smart. The interesting thing about Ripley is he's kind of a dull, boring American who really just, he's attracted by the glitz of nice European things, and he doesn't really appreciate them. He just likes to look like he knows what he's doing. He's a total phony. Most of Highsmith's characters are there's a bit of forgery and deception about all of them. The book I read this last week or two is called Dogs Ransom. It's an interesting, not famous, slightly unsuccessful. Come on, Lucky. These are okay, if you're going to wrestle me, I'm not going to let you up here. Lucky, you get down, you sit down, you come up here. And you can't come up. Oh my gosh, the dog's crazy. Lucky, you're going to have to leave. Sorry. Go. Yeah, out of the room. Out. Now, out. She thinks this is playtime. She doesn't realize how serious these videos are. These are incredibly serious videos. What was I talking about? So most of her characters are kind of these phony Americans. They're kind of people who know that they should drink nice wine, and they want to make sure they have a good label on it, or that it's something that other people like, but they don't really appreciate it. They don't really appreciate art, and they just want to look good. But Ripley is a person who she clearly likes. She writes a lot of books about him, and he's always doing horrible things. Ripley's game is the most evil. He's the most evil he could possibly be in it. And he does these horrible things to a man because the man was rude to him at a party. That's basically it. So the book I started to talk about before I was rudely interrupted by my crazy dog, A Dog's Ransom, is probably appropriate. This is a mediocre. There's a lot of mediocre Highsmith books, and the mediocre ones are just as interesting as the really, really good ones. She has a very loose plotting style. It's one of the things that comes out of the biography. She admits it. She sort of creates these characters in these situations, and she doesn't know where they're going to go. And you can feel that, but it's still an interesting book. It's about a guy who gets his dog is kidnapped by some horrible, typical psychopath. There's a lot of sociopaths in Highsmith, people who just like to do horrible things. This is Cheers. Cheers, only 3 more days, the fat bastard. There you go. Throw a pat in martini glass. And his dog gets kidnapped, and there's a cop who's a young kid who wants to be a good person. He's really a good kid. He's a nice kid. He wants to be a good cop. And he wants to be a good boyfriend to his girlfriend, all sorts of stuff. And he goes to try to help these people. And he finds a psychopath, and everything he does kind of screws up. The cop kind of screws stuff all the time. And eventually, basically, the cop does horrible things. He basically does horrible things. And there's something about the horrible crimes that he commits that he kind of even shares them with people. He just tells people, I just did this horrible thing. And that's sort of part of the Highsmith universe, is that evil and crime and murder and viciousness all kind of just come out of people. It's not unusual. For example, we talked about Strangers on a Train. 2 kind of middle-class characters meet on a train. They both have someone they hate. And the one guy, the one guy who's played by Robert Walker, who's wonderful in the Hitchcock movie. As Guy, what's his name? Is Guy and there's Guy and another guy. There's Guy and somebody, and Farley Granger I think plays the other one. They decide to swap murder. One decides to swap murders in the movie. It's different. The book, both the characters are both a bit evil, and in the movie they try to make Farley Granger the good guy. Anyway, there's a lot of wonderful books by Highsmith. She's a very disturbing writer. She's sort of involving. I really like Little Tales of Misogyny, which is basically middle-class Americans in their suburban homes all doing horrible things to each other. Their stories are all about 2-3 pages. Anyone who's like a really good person, I mean, it is Trump territory. It's a bunch of people who on the surface all love their little houses and they're all really good and they go to church and everything, and they just do horrible things to each other. It's not just which is the one. Suspension of Mercy is the one I was really enjoying. There's several Patricia Highsmith books which are about people trying to write. The central character of A Suspension of Mercy, I really like this book, is a writer who acts out his violence in his fiction or in his plotting of fictions, and he starts imagining killing his wife, and the imagining of killing his wife gets intermixed with reality. I don't want to tell the story any more than that, but that's a very typical Highsmith story, which is people who think about doing bad things but don't think they'll ever do bad things, but then they end up doing bad things, and they're really, really conflicted characters, confusing characters. There's not any nice people. I don't think there's a single nice person in a Highsmith novel. They're all pretty horrible. Anyway, perfect for our times. They're all cheaters. They're all faking it. They're all pretending they're somebody they're not. I suspect Lucky, frankly. I think Lucky might be a psychopath. I'm okay. You can trust me. We only have 3 more days. The fat bastard's out of the White House. I'm going to do one of these every day until he's gone. Stay safe. Happy bathing.